Hello friends, this is Susan of Susaninspired, and I've got some astrology stories for you today related to the Silicon Valley Bank failure, the establishment of the new bank once it was closed, and I have another chart on a key influence that was active at that time. It's very, very interesting. So we're going to dig right in here in a minute. First, for those of you who are new, I wanted to introduce myself and just say that what we're going to do is we're going to look at the charts and I'll explain what we're looking at. I like to tell stories so that the astrology can be broadly understood by anyone. First, and second, because the stories really communicate the potency of the energy. And this was a very potent few days over which this activity occurred. So if you resonate with my content and you want to see more, please like the video and subscribe. And subscribe to my Substack. Because that's where you get printed out versions of things, lots more detail, and if you're a paid subscriber, a deeper energy discussion. Okay, so this is the birth chart for Silicon Valley Bank. The time is estimated because this is the date that it was founded. It was founded October 17, 1983. When it failed, it had 17 locations, but the main location is in Santa Clara, California. That's where its main office is and headquarters. So this chart is a lot more busy than a regular chart because I look at a lot of asteroids for, getting a deeper flavor over things. So what I want to show you is something that astrologers don't look at a lot on YouTube. But I'm going to show you this. Okay, so this is the progression, the lunar progression for the chart. There are declinations, and what a declination is in astrology, it's this. So here's the equator line that we normally look at, where we look at the Earth upright. But the Earth is actually tilted, and that's called the ecliptic plane here. And the declination is basically the degrees from the equator on up. And most of the planets are going to be within the ecliptic plane. And this is, I think at the top here, it's 23.5. If you have a declination that goes out of that boundary, it's called out of bounds. And out of bounds adds, from an astrological perspective, a lot more energy. This is another way of looking at it. Here's the equator line for the planet, and as you look out into the sky, here's the ecliptic. Okay, most of the planets are within this range here, and right about here should be about 23.5 degrees. Okay, that's where that is. That's the tilt of the Earth. So this is something that is looked at behind the scenes of the charts. And so what we can do is kind of look at it from a forward perspective to see what's going on. So this is a chart for the founding of the bank. So it's a birth chart. So it starts in 1983 and it goes further out, but the bank did not survive. So the further out dates are not relevant, but if it had survived, those would have been potentials. Okay, so here we are in 2023. So this pink line is going to mark an approximate date of failure. So what you can see here is that the bank has peaked at a moon cycle. It's also about to peak at a Mercury cycle. These are transit cycles, which means as it goes on in life, right? So on this chart, you have both the birth representation and the transit, at moving energy of life, is going to have a curve to it. So what you see here is you've got a peak at this red line with out of bounds energy. So the ascendant, the face of the personality, is on the out of bounds line. There's a lot of energy for the face. And for sure, this failure has gotten a lot of media attention and literally global attention that corresponds with having the ascendant on the out of bounds line. The Mercury recently crossed the moon line here, which is a peak and going into a harvest, okay? You can see here that Mercury, the energy of communication, of mental analysis, it's so far out of bounds. It's like out of this world. It's very, very strong. And the moon line, right, the emotions, the emotional energy with this project, Silicon Valley Bank, the moon goes out of bounds every cycle. And we're in a cycle where Mercury, communication, went out of bounds. Communication that's gone around the world about what's happened. What you see here is you see a lot of different planetary influences crossing the moon line right prior to this crash. The sun has now crossed the moon line. That's about where this has happened. Here's the other key influence. You had a bottoming of energy of this purple line. This is Mars energy. So, out of steam. So, you can see here that here's 2020, 2021, is mid 2021, 2022. The bank, in my view, from an astrological perspective, did not fail here in 2023. The bank, it looks like the bank failure really happened in 2021 to 2022. So this is the chart of the same energy, progressed declinations. This is for the bank and it's location based. So I did this for the transit energy, so where all the planets were in the sky, on March 8th when Silicon Valley Bank released its press release, which is at 4:06 p.m. Pacific time. And based upon the information in that press release, everyone went wild and decided things weren't going to work out, and they wanted to, and the stock, started to fall. The press release was at 4:06, so that's the time that I use. So it's a location-based analysis. So this is the energy at the location in Santa Clara at the time of the press release. Now take a look at this. What you can see here is that the moon line for location has completely bottomed out. It's at the bottom of the lunar wave. This blue energy here is the lunar wave, and it works in cycles in a person's chart or entity or whatever you're looking at. For the area, the moon energy was out of bounds as well, but it was at the bottom of the lunar cycle. Now, if this were a person's chart, at the bottom of the lunar cycle tends to be some of the toughest times in your life. It's where I'm getting emotional. It's where you get divorced. It's where a shift in your life happens. Usually there's, maybe something ended that you maybe didn't want to end or you were very attached to. It can also be the very beginning of something new in a positive way. But there's always a real challenge that comes with it in some part of life. And then the moon starts to rise up again and we begin again. Well, so right here at the moon cycle, for the location that happened. Now here's something else. In that location, you had Neptune about to cross the lunar energy this year. And Neptune can represent the flow of money, like the energy, like how water it flows and can produce energy. I actually used to do money trading, okay? And that's a pretty wild and crazy thing to do. But it's so like boom, 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 boom all day. Money is flowing. The price is changing. It's just constant wild activity. And when I used to do that, this is before I knew that I was clairvoyant and all this other stuff, I would see it like rushing above our heads over the trading desk. I would like literally see like a river of money just flowing and flowing and flowing. And that, so Neptune can represent that. Now, Silicon Valley Bank was very important for venture capital and for titans of industry and for financing technology and new technologies. So it provided the energy for that. Now, this is fascinating. At the line, so the pink line is the bank, is where the bank failed, I'm estimating, okay? It's an estimate, but yeah, no, that's good. Sorry, I'm always checking numbers and times and things in my head. So now here's what happened. You had the sun cross Jupiter at the moon line. I mean, this is very intense. This is transit sun. So during the life of Silicon Valley Bank, in the location for its headquarters, the position of the sun in declinations crossed the position, or will cross in 2023, but in the grand scheme of time, this can be felt before it happens. This is a very close, this is a very close relationship here. And Jupiter is ascending, and this can be a death signal. It can be a death signal as well for people. Okay, if this happens in the chart, however, being living human beings with a living soul, it can also greatly expand one's soul and one's activities in the world as well. The reason it's a death signal is that the sun expands so greatly that it leaves the body, right? It leaves the soul, leaves the body and moves on to heaven, the next life, interpret that based on your personal beliefs. So for an entity, a bank, what it looks like here, going back to the birth chart, you had a period of, it had just been through a period of bottomed out Mars energy in the life of the company. And that was mid-2021. Now, these kinds of transitions are extremely difficult when you have energy bottoming like this. They can indicate a shift in the life path, but really to a positive direction, okay? But making the transition can be difficult. For example, if you're married to someone or you're married and you have this kind of a bottoming in your Venus line, it takes a commitment of the heart and soul to stay together and do that shift together. And so, if you've gotten divorced, it would be interesting to, this is the kind of thing I would look at if I was doing a reading for you and you had gotten divorced or there was some big thing in your life. And I have done this for people and myself, but you will see these kinds of things on the chart. Anyway, so Mars bottoms out, okay? Essentially, the entity that it was no longer has any energy, and it's about to shift into something new. The energy for the new is starting to build. And when that happens, the sun crosses the moon line, okay? The moon line being your intuitive sense of things and your emotions. So the soul line of this entity crosses the moon. That's emotional. The ascendant, the face, the personality of the bank is, it's very high. It's in the highest, maybe social status that it's going to gain. And communications are very visible, lots of energy. And in the location, there's a death signal, right? So because the bank cannot expand from an energy perspective, what the chart says is the bank cannot expand past It's reached its full potential in the current form. As we saw with the Mars energy, it no longer has the energy for that. So here's the thing. When you're going through a moon transition like that with these lunar waves, it went through an extremely, challenging time here, but this can also give a lot of opportunity. However, with the bank peaking, let's go back to where the Mars line bottomed right there in 2021. So the energy for this bank, and this is the actual birth chart, not the location chart, the energy of Mars bottomed right here, where Mercury crossed the moon. And so what this tells us is that this was a peak and a harvest, the beginning of the harvest coming off the peak for Silicon Valley Bank. But from this pink line here, where Mars bottomed, forward, it's in a new form of some kind. It's in a new form of some kind. Now, as it's in the new form, okay, I know this is a lot of lines on the chart, but as it's in the new form, the moon line is moving, coming down, and it's got to cross through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planetary energies just to start, okay, in rapid succession. And that, if you don't, okay, if you're in a rocky relationship and you make it through a moon like this on the uptrend, going through all of this, and you make it, you have to get it together in your relationship at the top of the moon. Because if you don't, you're going to face all of these challenges, and this is where the divorce happens. As an example, that's not always how it happens with relationships in a divorce, but that's one way it can happen. And with the bottoming of a major energy in the planetary chart, that's tough to get through. So what we see here is, here's a new form. And now, now we see what's going to happen. All right, so put that back like this. Okay. Now I want to show you some other stuff about, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I was thinking, I don't know who founded the bank on October 17th, but this is not a great chart for, I can see there's some things here I can see why they did that. For example, see this? Uranus and Jupiter are conjunct. I mean, that's huge energy. And it's conjunct in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius has forward vision. It has animal magnetism because Sagittarius is a centaur. It has like philosophy and interesting things, like, the bank financed new ideas, okay? And no wonder. It's got Uranus conjunct Jupiter. Uranus is the planet of the new, the planet of lightning and shocking ideas and shocking things happening, like financing new technologies, right? Or financing companies doing new innovative stuff. So I can see why, from the perspective of this conjunction, you would have done that. If you're an astrologer, you can see the AC is here, the ascendant, but I can't be sure of that because I don't know the exact time. So what I did was, for those of you astrology people, I just did a whole signs chart with Aries at 1. This is a traditional place to put the chart and the signs. And I just did that because I'm uncertain of the time. So I'm looking at the bigger trends and not the specifics that are affected by time, like ascendant, midheaven, and exact position of the inner planets for you astrology people. Now, here's the thing. Jupiter and Uranus are, I know I'm laughing. Why do I laugh at these things? Yeah. Why do I laugh? I'm laughing at the folly here because they probably didn't, I mean, they may or may not have seen this, but I believe that energies reflect the truth of what is, okay? So they are square Venus, and Venus in Virgo. Virgo is a feminine sign, right? It's represented by the Virgin and some other symbols, but it's very, very detail oriented. And Virgo rules how we live in the world, our health, how we do our work. It's extremely detail oriented, and it has Mars and Venus together like brothers and sisters. Okay, so I can also see why you would pick this, because that's pretty cool for harmony, and it's got a lot of energy to it, right? It's also got a romantic of a man and a woman attracted to each other. It can also represent that, okay? It's got the hot fieriness of Mars, the god of war, and the, hot sexiness of Venus. She's wah-bah-boom, right? When she's with Mars, if we're talking about a male and a female. It's the other way to look at the energy. I think it's, it's not really brother and sister there. Okay, it's sorry I said that. It's male and female. It could be brother and sister, but not with the, there's a lot of energy generated here, which would activate the passion of Mars. All right, so here's the thing. Venus is, and that ambiguity is, much to my chagrin, personally, very present, most likely in some of the culture of some of the people that may have been involved here. But I'm not saying anyone in particular. I'm just saying that would have attracted that sort of the ambiguous relationships, and I don't want to get into that anymore because I'm going to focus on money here. All right, so Venus Venus points to where the value is, and she does represent money, but she represents far more than that. So you have her and Mars, so you could see that as a lot of energy towards money, and the details of that square, big, shocking new things. So it looks like, okay, fine. It looks like it looks great for an innovative financial firm that's going to back new companies. It's square, though, which can present significant challenges. However, squares can give us a lot of energy. So there's a lot of energy for it, but it has to be done correctly. Not only does something have to be new and innovative, but it has to be square in terms of the money, in terms of the analysis of the details, and square meaning the pros and cons net to zero or greater than zero. Okay, you want to finance when the pros far outweigh the cons, and when the return on investment is going to be high, right? If you do not put the focus on the details, if you overweight this sexual ambiguity, if you bumble about and do not check the numbers, if you don't check the hard data, if you don't check, is this really the proper place to put the investment? And so you have Metis here. So here she is. She's the goddess of wisdom, and she counseled Saturn, okay, the old god Kronos, within 3 degrees of Venus. So she is wisdom applying towards Venus at 3 degrees. It's a little wide, but still close enough to matter. So it has to be real from the perspective is this wise to invest in? Or there's going to be trouble, right? So if you overweight, this is super cool, we're not going to worry about, the risk factors as much. Or oh, here's all these super details. It's really totally wise, but it doesn't have the flash. Those are the different circumstances in which one side or another of the square wins out, and it would be unbalanced, and then there would be trouble. So we're looking at the birth chart. So these are just general themes for the bank as an entity. We can pretend it's a personality even. But the other thing is you have Jupiter and Uranus. So this is very big energy, very shocking, striking energy opposing Chiron, which is wounding. Okay, we'll talk more about this later. But Chiron is wounding. And Chiron is in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. And we just saw in the declinations that Mercury was a key player in the bank's failure. And Mercury is the sign ruled by Mercury, or one of them, is where Chiron is. Chiron is the wounded healer. It's both where we shine in our mastery, and that's why it could be seen as a strength as well. It's where we shine in our mastery, but it's also where we have our greatest woundings. So you see, the energies of this bank had to be tended very carefully. It was founded with very powerful influences. But if any of these influences get overweighted, then the square becomes unbalanced, okay? It also had a yod. It looks like the yod was pointed to not Venus, but Metis. Actually, Venus and Metis. It was wide on both angles. Now, guess where it's coming from? This is the asteroid representing the energy of the entity Lucifer. And I specifically put this asteroid in because this asteroid was a key player in the energies on March 8th when the stock tanked, and on March 10th when the bank was taken over. And I'm going to show you that in a second. Lucifer is at one side of the yod to Metis and wide to it's 3 degrees from Venus. And part of fortune here, the luck, essentially, if you will, or good fortune, is in a yod to Venus and Metis. These are quincunxes, and together they make a yod. These two dash lines here, thick dash, the red dash lines. Now, this would have to be cleaned up to be entirely accurate because based upon the time, the part of fortune might move slightly, but it gives us a flavor. Okay, and even if the part of fortune slightly changed or went out of bounds of yod territory, of quincunx territory, you have an exact quincunx between Lucifer and Metis. Metis is wisdom, and Lucifer is betrayal. Betrayal, self-betrayal, betrayal of others, that sort of thing. The other thing that I wanted to show you here is you had the moon quincunx. What am I looking at here? You had the moon, not quincunx, the moon opposing. You had the moon transit. So that's at this day in the sky, March 8th, the day that the stock crashed. The moon was opposing Metis and Neptune. So I point this out because you have that influence of Lucifer in a spiritual quincunx, means a spiritual challenge to Metis. Now in the sky, Metis is right next to Neptune, and both of these have recently gone over these asteroids in the birth chart Abundance and Nike Victory. And both of these in the birth chart are under review. And you have the sun approaching Neptune, right, almost ready to shine a light, still a little bit far. One other thing I want to show you here is Sedna is 3 degrees from Chiron. transit Sedna is 3 degrees from natal Chiron. Sedna is often said to be financial ruin. However, I think that it's limited to use that interpretation for Sedna, because it does not always mean that. Sedna means, the way that Sedna would mean financial ruin is how you react to the circumstances that Sedna presents. And what she presents is abandonment by a male figure, by the father, by Saturn, okay, if you will. Because what happens is Saturn, her father, betrays her. It wasn't Saturn, but in the energies, it's a man that is older, which is usually Saturn, but also weak, which is not Saturn. He's weak in terms of his spirit, but he's strong in terms of his desire to survive. And he tosses Sedna overboard, and she drowns and goes to the bottom of the ocean. I know, it's a lovely story, isn't it? So he betrays her. He betrays his own child. However, Sedna has the last laugh, if you will, because she ends up rising out of the ocean and becoming a goddess of fertility. So Sedna, it depends. If you take on Sedna's, I'm at the bottom of the ocean betrayed, and then I act from there, well then, yeah, could that lead to bad decisions that cause financial ruin? Absolutely. But it could also lead to a transformation of emotional energy that leads you to transform into a new state where you rock, where you rock your life. That means in a good way you express, winning. However, with everything else going on in the chart, this is painful. Sedna at Chiron. Let's see, what am I going to show you next? All right, this is the chart for the asteroid Lucifer at 0 degrees of Pisces. This was incredible. Okay, it was shocking to me when I saw this, but also, unfortunately, it did make a lot of sense. Let me show you this. Now, the shape of the chart, for those of you who understand astrology, I use the location for Santa Clara because that's where the bank is based. So this is Lucifer as it moved to 000 Pisces, which was at 4:21 a.m., only hours before the bank was taken over by FDIC regulators. In fact, for all we know, they could have been in the bank at that time. I mean, I couldn't find in any of the information what time the regulators actually entered the bank, but they released a press release, and I'll show you that right here. They released this press release at 8:54 a.m. on March 10th. Okay, so they had already been in the bank for unknown hours by 9 a.m., essentially Pacific time. So they got there pretty early. And at that time, they said the FDIC today created Deposit Insurance National Bank of Santa Clara to protect insured depositors of Silicon Valley Bank, which was closed this morning by bank regulators. Okay, so that's why I used that time. That's how I use that time. That's why I use that location. And that's why I'm saying this time, literally, they went into the bank just essentially, in the grand scheme of things, as Lucifer went to 0 Pisces. Now, why is that important? And here that is right here. When the bank crashed, when the stock crashed on the 8th of March, 2023, Lucifer was at 29 degrees of Aquarius, the new age. His energy, this is my read, his energy was attempting to poison the new future of humanity. Do I sound irritated? What can you do? This is what he is. This is what he does. This is what this energy represents. And at 29 degrees, where it was the day this stock crashed, and the reason it's important and that we're looking at it is because of what it might mean for the entire economy. Now, that's not my job to talk about in this video. I'm just showing you what the influences were behind whatever this is, this desire for betrayal of his own people, let alone the rest of humanity, was at 29. So on March 8th, when the bank made the announcement, the Luciferian energy was at full power for the full meaning of Aquarius and what that means for our future. Because you see, Pluto at 29 here is expressing the full power of Capricorn, our structures, including the banking system. Okay, so Lucifer was exact in the shadow, semi-sextile, but going ahead of Pluto. Was in the next sign going forward. And Hygeia here is health and wellness. So she's within 4 degrees here, which is wide for an asteroid, but she just conjuncted Pluto. So she just was filled with the Plutonian energy. And Pluto is life and death. The life and death of Capricornian systems, societal systems and structures that are big and large. And here we have Pluto at 29, just having conjuncted Hygeia. Health and wellness conjuncts the themes of life and death. And then 2 days later, on March 10th of 2023, Saturn, which rules Capricorn, which rules systems, is now in Pisces at 0 degrees. Okay, it just entered this on March 7th, and I put a write-up on Facebook on it, and somewhere else, I don't know. But Lucifer moves to 0, 0, 0, and I'm invoking a space of sacred discharge imbued by the violet flame back to the beginning of this video, transmuting all negativity to a state of unconditional love and neutral in divine perfection. I'm not calling in any energies here. I am simply telling a story. This energy moves to 0 degrees, and it is exact conjunct Saturn in the shadow of Pluto. And what happens? The bank fails. Pretty wild, am I right? Now, this is the general energy that day for the entire world, okay? But it's fascinating that this was the overall theme of the energies, isn't it? Now, this energy here that this asteroid represents is about betrayal, but it's also about self-betrayal. And the antidote to it is to be true to yourself. Don't let it get you into fear. Don't let it get you into anger, because that's when you're at its effect. And nobody wants to be at the effect of this, trust me. Despite the fact that it can present itself as exceedingly tempting and attractive, be it in a male or a woman or a, financial bank or a financial situation. I'm just saying, okay, that's what was present that day. If you stay true to God within you, the Most High, the Creator of the universe, the light of your own soul, and you honor that and you live it, that's the antidote to this energy. Stop betraying yourself. And you heal this within yourself. Okay, so that's how you deal with it. At any rate, what I got to tell you is I knew that this was coming because I looked at this asteroid before? Yes, okay, but I did a chart about 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was 10 days ago. I don't know. Anyway, it's all happened. Everything's happened so fast in the last 2 weeks. And I did not put this asteroid in the chart, okay? I was using a different program than the one I'm showing you right now. I was looking at something very specific, and I thought I took this asteroid. I know I took it off, and a whole bunch of other ones. But when I looked at the chart, there it was. And what that tells me is this is God's guidance for me to talk about this. I think I'm the only person talking about this. And I don't know why it had to be me, but I took on the task because my spiritual guidance, the way that I came to see this, I had taken it out, and the program I was using put me back in an old set of data rather than I thought I had deleted all of that. So look, here's what comes to me. Remember how I talked about how Pisces, which is ruled by, I talked about how Neptune, which is ruled by Pisces. Pisces can represent the flow of money, not money itself, but the flow of energy. So when this energy conjuncts Saturn, right? Saturn in Pisces is about bringing structure. And one has to be careful about how one does this in Pisces because you can't contain the ocean, right? But you can create a proper crucible for water to water something and something to grow properly, right? You can't deal with the whole ocean, but you can take some of that, put it into a structure, and thrive, right? So see here's Metis again. And here she is. During this conjunction, she conjuncts Neptune. Thank God, right? God is good. And so wisdom conjuncts the ruler of Pisces, which is Neptune. Wisdom, as Lucifer conjuncts Saturn at 0 Pisces. So this elevates Neptune, which can, on the one hand, be in great delusion and even insanity, and then on the other hand, it can be in shocking spiritual insights and oneness with God, okay? The Most High, the creator of the universe. So what this said to me was, be careful of something that's not spiritually aligned in these energies. Stay true to yourself, right? And that's how you actually thrive. The sun, the soul, representing the soul, conjunct Metis with Neptune, conjunct Mercury, right? So the soul conjuncted to the planet of communication, conjuncted to the ruler of Pisces, Neptune. So this can be a beautiful combination if we choose to align with God's will through us. And not the false gods, okay? That would be the lower expression of Neptune, the Most High, the all that is, the creator of the universe, right? The source of unconditional love. So anyway, what came to me was that this conjunction between Saturn and this asteroid can mean poisoning the water. And so I sat with this for days thinking, oh my gosh, this is why we had the train accidents in the United States, which literally poisoned major water bodies in the United States. And literally after the one in Ohio, there was other ones and directly into water sources. And I thought, this is terrible, but that was the precursor to this event, to the combination of these energies in Pisces. But what I didn't see, which I saw as soon as I saw the Silicon Valley Bank failure, was that it's also the poisoning of the flow of energy as represented with Neptune and Pisces of money, the flow of energy of money, by the forces that wish to betray, right? Because that's just what they are. That's just what they do. Now, here's a fascinating thing. You can literally see the devil in the geometry of these charts. Here's the head, here's the horns. Okay, so this is 2 quincunxes, and they are for the location. You wouldn't see them if we weren't looking at Santa Clara, okay? Because this is the ascendant and Hygeia and Pluto. And this is the MC. It's a lot of quincunxes here. So these are all spiritual challenges. Okay, there's one yod, and it's to the midheaven. These are too wide to be. Well, actually, no. This is fine. But it's actually destiny here. Vertex is quincunx Pluto. This is a yod to Pluto. Pluto at 29, Capricorn. And then you've got fortune at 0, Cancer. Okay? So a yod, this arrow here that you see on the left and on the right, that forms this head here, a head with horns. But it's actually where God, the Most High, points to on the chart. And this is the most stunning thing, okay? Because I've seen this over and over as I've looked at this energy. This is this vertex here, destiny, in Virgo, okay, which we saw how important the energy of Virgo, Venus in Virgo and Mars in Virgo was to Silicon Valley Bank. But here, at the moment of this conjunction, vertex, destiny in Santa Clara was in Virgo. And in a spiritual challenge with Pluto, okay, the powerful master of the, ruler of the underworld, ruler of life and death for our financial systems, our government systems, our whatever systems in Capricorn. And on the other side, the arrow points to fortune in the sign of Cancer, our emotions. And what I'm saying here is that this is good. I know that it doesn't seem good. And over the weekend, there were all these people, putting out fear porn so they can get clicks on their videos and other stuff. And of course, some of them are, actually trying to share information. Fortune is in the house of the home. It's in the house of the mother. It's in the house of love, right? It's in the house of the moon. It's in the house of the feminine. And so this is a very detailed look at our destiny and working hard, towards our destiny in Virgo with good fortune for the home. God says this is what God says in the chart. The yod points to Pluto and Capricorn and says, I'm making a change for the health that will benefit the health of the human home, Hygeia, at 2 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. It's going to benefit our future. The bank had to go for the good of us all. And that's why you see, this energy tries to work against God, rebellion against God. Okay, as my friend Andrea has taught me, this is what this represents, right? And just read the Bible stories. But God is going to turn it to the highest good of humanity. He's going to change our health, and it's going to do it in a way that is beneficial. And let me show you something else. Here, this is Varuna, the god of justice. Conjunct Lilith, the badass bitch, okay? And I say that in an endearingly loving way because I love this energy. This is the powerful shadow side of the independent woman who protects. She just spent 18 months in Capricorn protecting the home in the non-physical, because Lilith is a master of the astral and 4D, okay? And now she's in the sign of Leo, which is the individual. The individual has to be healthy for the new Aquarian age to really mean anything or matter from the standpoint of humanity. So here she is, and what is she? She's conjunct. She's next to the god of justice. So there is a ragingly strong desire for individual justice here, and Varuna's retrograde under review, looking at what has happened to me in my life the last few years. How has this affected me? How has what's gone on affected me? How do the energies we've just been talking about, how have they affected me? I want justice. There's something about this bank issue that is it's at the effect of justice. And let me show you in the chart. Here's the birth chart, and this is for Silicon Valley Bank. This is their birth chart. Here's the asteroid Lucifer, and look, it's exact opposing Lilith and Varuna, which I just talked about. Justice is coming. This is the amazing thing that I've seen in the energies. There's something about the bank failure that aligns with justice for the individual human being. I can't explain it. That's just what the energies say here. That's just what the energies say. And there's something else I want to show you about this too. With Metis at Neptune, wisdom rules the spiritual aspect here. Again, showing that for some reason, this is in alignment with the highest good. There's something else I want to show you. Okay, remember, this is the chart of the bank. Here's Eris. Eris is, she is disruption. She is discord. She is chaos, okay? Yeah. And look what is opposing in this chart, okay? This is just so wild, okay? You've got Vesta, the sign of the home sign. Jupiter, very big energy. Chiron, woundings. Very big woundings at the core of what this bank is. And all of that means Eris, chaos, and the bank fails. And the first thing that happened was that Venus passed over Eris first. Venus representing money and the true value. She went past Eris, and when she went past Eris, she shook, okay? She shook. So what this tells me is there were rumblings before this happened. Whatever those were, whatever the signs were, they were there. And it's interesting because you have all of these energies, and they are square Pallas Athena. 1, 2, 3. See, Pallas Athena is square Eris, which is a fine energy. Athena supports heroic human effort. That's a pretty cool energy. And it's a pretty cool energy for a bank to have in Capricorn, a sign of the banking system. But under current conditions, where it appears that value has not been attended properly, that the bank went way too big in risky investments, because the reason it failed is it made a bet on interest rates, and interest rates went against the bet, and it lost money. That's what it announced, essentially. That whole thing was under the announcement, underneath the energy of the announcement on Wednesday. And if you're a financial person, you can read this stuff. That's the thing I loved about finance when I was in it. Financial people get all of this. And so you put out the announcement and the financial people figure all this stuff out. And I'm doing it with astrology, but they figure it out in terms of the details. Oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. Okay, that means this. So what I'm saying here is that it wasn't acting right. And Pallas Athena will not tolerate that. Okay, because she supports heroic efforts and she destroys monsters. She gives human beings the tools to destroy monsters. And so what happens? When all of this energy comes square, 1, 2, 3 is a square, Venus, Chiron, Jupiter, Vesta, the sacred home. See, Vesta's at 12 right now. Okay? All of it has passed over 12 degrees. Pallas Athena found the energy of the bank lacking. Her shield is what paralyzes monsters, the shield of Algol, which Perseus used. And where is Sedna? She's 2 degrees from Algol. Now, a proper warrior, a warrior of God, will use the shield of Algol to defeat those harming the children. That's all I'm going to say.